Well, we're getting closer to exposing this Hunter Biden, Joe Biden money situation. It's a very, very difficult story to get to the bottom of, but we'll do it. As I told News Nation audience last night, I hope you tune in and see that. Chris Cuomo, 8 o'clock. We have it on BillO'Reilly.com if you want to take it. But I told their audience, look, I don't have it all, but I will get it because I'm on it. We're on it. My staff is on it. We're closing in on this. We can't subpoena bank records. That has to be done through Congress. We know the fix is in. The Justice Department isn't looking into this with any kind of authority. We know that. We know the corrupt corporate media. Only after things start to come out will they pay attention. But I have a pretty good staff, and I know what I'm doing. I just got off the phone with a very, very powerful government official who I can't name, and I'm not even going to quote that person because I don't lose anonymous sources, but I got filled in on a lot of stuff. And it's pretty grim, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. So let's review what we reported last night. If you're BillO'Reilly.com Premium or Concierge members, you can get a transcript of this free, and you can then watch the program anytime you want. So if you missed last night's, it's worth going in and watching it. So as we reported, and as you probably know, this whole case started in 2018. Donald Trump president, William Barr attorney general. All right? And it was based in Delaware where Hunter Biden resided. The U.S. attorney appointed by Trump, David Weiss, was in charge of the case. All right. Fast forward to the election, there's Weiss. Fast forward to the election of 2020, Trump loses, Biden wins. But there's a transition period between Election Day and the inauguration. Bill Barr quits, all right, resigns as Attorney General. But before he goes, and he has been supervising the Hunter Biden investigation for 2 years, he says, don't worry about it, under control, doesn't need a special counsel. I'm not going to appoint one. We ran that soundbite last night. Important for you to understand that. So Barr walks out the door and he says, everything's under control. We're investigating honestly. We'll find out what happened. Okay. In the middle of 2022, now we're leaping a year and a half, all right, from Inauguration Day. Merrick Garland is the Attorney General now. In the middle of 2022, Weiss in Delaware has now been on this case almost 4 years, assembles information and says, I need the cooperation of 2 other U.S. attorneys, one in Washington, D.C., all right, and that man's name is Graves, okay, and one in California, that man's name is Martin Estrada, okay. So Matthew Graves is the bald guy, Estrada is the other guy. He needs cooperation from these 2 because money from foreign concerns, Romania, Ukraine, and China, flowed into Hunter Biden's pocket in D.C. and California. So we asked them, let's partner up on this and we'll get the whole big picture. Unbelievably, and I mean that literally, Matthew Graves and Martin Estrada say, no, we're not going to help you. Now, their boss, Merrick Garland, could have stopped that dead and said, yeah, you help Weiss. He's asking for your help. You help him. Garland didn't do that. So Graves and Estrada, they don't cooperate. They don't look into it. They don't do anything, leaving David Weiss in charge. Okay. So then earlier this week, I get wind that Matthew Graves' wife, Fatima Graves, has visited the Biden White House 28 times. 28 times. This is according to visitor logs. Now, the reason we got onto this is because we're tracking Alexander Soros. And we'll have more on that on Monday. Because he's in the White House like every day. So Fatima Graves goes to the White House 28 times. She got no government job. Now, she's an activist, very far left activist, okay? Gives a lot of money to Democrats, and her husband does too, Matthew Graves. So Fatima is in the White House. So we want to know why. What is all this? Nothing. We can't find out. Nobody will tell us why she's there 28 times. Suspicions rise. Now, the House Oversight Committee, Ways and Means, they need to call Fatima Graves in under oath. What were you doing there? 28 times. I suspect, I can't prove it, and I could be wrong. I want to repeat that. I can't prove it, and I could be wrong. That Fatima Graves is a conduit bringing information from the Merrick Garland White House, Justice Department, to Biden in the White House, Biden's people. Not Biden himself, but Biden's people. Conduit carrying messages back and forth about the Biden investigation, of course. Remember, Matthew Graves and Attorney General Garland work in the same building in D.C. So you can't put it in writing. You can't call because those calls are taped. You got to send somebody back and forth. Right? Okay. So then we are stuck. But again, I'll find out. But I need Comer and Jordan and the others in the House investigating this to subpoena Fatima Graves. I can't subpoena the woman. Biden White House is not going to give you anything. But she could come in. What is she going to do? She can't take the fifth. If she did, that would be shocking. Although I don't think the corporate media would cover it even then. Now, I also got a lot of letters from last night's program about Bill Barr, the Republican, staunch Republican. And why would he not take aggressive action in trying to find out how much money came in from Romania, Ukraine, and China to the Biden family? Why would he just be so casual about it? It's all right. Why? All right. So you may remember that on June 21st, I interviewed former Assistant U.S. Attorney General Jeff Clark, who worked under Trump. Here's what Clark said about Barr. But why would Barr want to give cover to his political enemies?
Because I don't really think that they are his political enemies, Bill. I think that we're living essentially under a kind of uniparty apparatus in the United States. And I think that Barr is part of that uniparty apparatus, right? There's a kind of, red team, blue team sort of thing going on of, we're Republicans, we wear R's on our shirts versus D's, going on. But they're largely cooperative on lots of major issues, like a lot of the massive intelligence state we have now in the wake of 9/11, of all the warmongering that's going on, as we see with a lot of the support for Ukraine. And, I think Barr is in that mold.
Now, again, this is speculation, and I could be wrong, but it makes sense. Bill Barr got a lot of money to write a book, put the book out, was booked, promoting the book on all the liberal shows. Okay? If you go against the progressive orthodoxy in this country, you get book contracts canceled. You don't get on the Today Show. You don't get on Cold Air. So Barr, knowing he's going to make millions, I don't know if it's millions, but it's a lot, from a book, goes out and goes, I'm not going to really attack the Bidens. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm gone. I'm going to make as much money as I can based upon my government service, but I'm not alienating the new regime. I'm guessing, but it's plausible. And that's a memo. So I promoted yesterday Brett Tallman. He's coming to us from Salt Lake City. He's a former U.S. attorney in Utah, and we use him a lot on Justice Department issues. As you know, I've made him very famous across the world. You know what I'm doing. Number one, am I on the right track in your opinion?
Yeah, this is great stuff, Bill, and I'll tell you why I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm not seeing journalists that are willing to really peel back the layers and take a close look and put together the timeline. It's the kind of stuff that DOJ would be doing had they approached this like a traditional investigation. But you take, for example, Bill Barr. There's a mentality in Washington D.C. that if you serve in government, you'll eventually cash in, and you see that with book deals, or you see that with lobbying. And what happened? Bill Barr went to a law firm and is making incredible amounts of money there, and he's making money on his book. And it's what we know happens in DC, but unless you've been there and seen it up close, you don't realize how paralyzing it is to actually, swift and fair justice.
Now, do you know this Matthew Graves, the D.C. attorney, U.S. attorney who wouldn't cooperate on the Hunter Biden investigation, and his wife Fatima going back and forth? Do you know Graves?
I've met him a couple of times. I also was very close to his predecessor, who was the U.S. attorney prior to him. And, his thoughts on the matter were that they're putting in somebody that they know is a very known factor. And what that means in Washington, D.C. is that they are all part of the same club, right? The same team. They're gonna make decisions, and they're gonna work together on those decisions. I've been shocked at the denials that Main Justice doesn't have a lot of communication with the White House and with the Bidens. They do it through conduits. They do it through liaisons, and it happens. And it should surprise nobody that that's going on.
But this is the highest level now. This is the
Absolutely.
president's son with accusations on his computer that he gave money to his father, a sitting vice president at the time. I mean, this is any bigger than this. Now, am I wrong to say that Attorney General Merrick Garland could have ordered Graves and Estrada to cooperate with Weiss?
Yeah, it's almost laughable that they're trying to pass that off as a reason why Weiss couldn't expand the investigation. Typically, U.S. attorneys are definitely there for one another when they have multi-jurisdiction investigations. They work together. You don't even have to ask.
I've never
They jump all over it.
heard this. And I don't know whether you have, but I have never heard a U.S. attorney turning down a request from another U.S. attorney to share information and partner up on a case, particularly as big as this case. Have you ever heard that?
No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen unless it came down from on top. And the other thing that's puzzling, though, is when you work in a multi-jurisdictional criminal investigation, your FBI and your IRS, they have task forces, and they have folks in all of these locations. And before the U.S. attorney even weighs in on what they're going to do, they are running with the investigation. And then along with the home U.S. attorney, they will present that to the U.S. attorney in the other jurisdiction when they need an indictment. And so it's all backwards. None of this makes sense. It also goes back to the highlights why Bill Barr should have appointed a special counsel.
Sure.
Because you avoid this kind of politicking and gamesmanship.
Right, and I said it last night, I'll say it again. John Mitchell did the same thing to protect Richard Nixon in Watergate. John Mitchell went to prison for doing that, all right? So that was going on, it's been going on forever, but now we have an investigation that's in the hands of Congress. And I mean, if they don't call this Fatima Graves, then I know that the congressional investigations, they don't care. They have to call this woman. Am I wrong?
And I think they will. I think, understanding the connection, the refusal by Graves to go forward, the supposed lack of cooperation from these other jurisdictions, that's part of this web of deceit that's been, served to all of us to try to analyze and believe in, but you can't, and none of it is adding up, Bill. And so it's sad because it's cumbersome to investigate this with Congress. As you pointed out, the FBI has been doing this for decades, and DOJ is so good at building these wagon wheel fraud investigations, and it's tragic that here we are, and we have no confidence that they either side, Republican or Democrat, wanted to do it.
Yeah, and no exposure from the press whatsoever. So if you walk out on the street today and you go to your peer, American citizen, what do you think about the Hunter Biden? Maybe they'll know a little, but they don't know anything. They don't know anything.
No.
All right?
Well, thank God for you.
I appreciate that. I mean, we're working very, very hard. Next week, we got Senator Ted Cruz on Tuesday. I'm going to try to get, and this is from my producers listening in the booth right now, we'll try to get Comer on Monday. We're going to send Comer transcripts of last night's show and this tonight's show with you. We're going to send his committee there all of the information that we have accomplished. Because I don't know if they know Fatima Graves from, the cliche is Adam, but it'd have to be Eve. I don't know if they know anything about this because this emanated. We heard about it and now we broke it, but then it's silence. Even Fox News not covering this. They have nobody on it. Nobody on it.
Yeah. It's outrageous. There's also a new whistleblower.
Yeah, right. Now, the whistleblowers, they're getting attention. But this subterfuge underneath. Last question. If Fatima Graves is indeed a conduit between Merrick Garland and her husband, Matthew, and the Biden White House, is that a crime? What can happen?
Well, it absolutely could be a conspiracy to obstruct justice. If they're all trying to shut down an investigation, a legal, lawful investigation of actual, staggering criminal behavior, maybe the worst corruption we've seen in the history of this country, and if they're part of that, then the Attorney General is leading that conspiracy, and that's a standalone crime.
Okay. Unbelievable story evolving. Brett, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Stay close. We'll certainly update you and have you back on us as soon as we can. All right. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. You have comments, you have questions, you have tips. If you're in D.C. and you're watching me, you know something about this. All right. I'm not going to let it go.